Welcome to Books for Success. Today, we're delving into the wisdom within Stumbling on Happiness by Todd Gilbert. Unhack your brain to process your experiences and improve your self-understanding. Manage your vision of the past, present, and future to develop a healthy mindset. You'll learn how our imagination tricks us. When the past isn't the answer for the future, to appreciate the hardships of the present. Why happiness needs rationality. Before we begin, subscribe and ring the bell for notifications if you want to keep receiving the knowledge of book summaries about health, wealth, love, psychology, and much more. Don't be shy about dropping your book suggestions for us to summarize. Also, you can use this video as an audiobook summary. Let's grow and succeed together. Don't dream it, be it. One thing we humans do better than other species is think about things to come. While non-human animals often act as though they can think about the future, only humans do. What is it we have that other animals don't? Conscience. Being able to register our experiences makes it possible to imagine things and dream of the future, which can be a blessing and a curse. The human brain is a complicated anticipation machine, with a mission to make the future, sometimes at the expense of the present. The brain is like an abacus. Just like 2 + 2 = 4 is a simple movement of beads to the left, the brain can create the future by adding the past to the present. It's a natural and obvious thing. Another curious thing about thoughts is that they are abstractions, non-existent in the physical space, and we depend on these mental images. We'd rather avoid the fact we need the present to advance, because imagining an abstract future can be a sweet escape from real pain. And even though there are a few who learn to live in a permanent present state, humans can't help but conjure imaginary tomorrows. After all, our ultimate goal is a happy life. Now, happiness rarely comes freely, so to create it, you have to gain a proper understanding of it. Todd Gilbert is here to help you do just that. So, if you're ready to leave the wonderland of imagination and see the beauty of the real world, come with us. Dazzled by happiness. What is happiness? Most of the time, it's so subjective we can't grasp its essence until something fortunate happens to us that we can give as a cause of happiness. But even then, the true nature of this feeling slips between the lines. Happiness indicates three things. Emotional happiness is responsible for our feelings and experiences. As it stems from emotions, it doesn't have a physical referent. Moral happiness, propagated by Socrates. According to him, happiness arises from living life properly and morally. Judgmental happiness is a way to define something inducing pleasure. In this case, we are saying that something is a potential source of a pleasurable feeling, even if we don't necessarily feel it at that moment. A significant number of people cannot plan or imagine their future accurately, mainly because experience is subjective. Ideally, people shouldn't know how others feel, but they are expected to know how they feel themselves. The following idea may sound counterintuitive, but we often can't explain why we feel the way we do, especially when the cause is not evident, for example, a particular event. That said, people say what they perceive to be accurate, but their perception is wrong. Experience and awareness are other concepts that might seem alike, but there is quite a considerable distinction, which may cause confusion and manifest through our emotions and reactions. We like to think that our recollections are entirely accurate, but our brain is tricky. In fact, our recollections often lack accuracy or realism because our imagination relies heavily on memory and perception, which can add false details to our memories and thoughts. There are specific details we miss out on, which our brain tries to fill up with products of past experiences, unintentionally compromising the truth. As a result, we see things that weren't really there and remember things that didn't happen because they resulted from fantasy. The future is made in the present. Human imagination is structurally biased toward the present. It thoroughly infuses our fantasies of the future with realities of the present, making people carry projections of their current circumstances and values onto the future. However, the future is not as definite as the present, so projecting today onto tomorrow can set wrong expectations for things to come. To predict frustration or satisfaction with something, we can try pre-feeling. Unlike logical thinking, pre-feeling relies on imagination, helping us foretell our reaction before something happens. For example, We can leaf through a book to predict if we'd enjoy it by imagining how we'd feel. This way, we create the future by visualizing it in the present. However, pre-feeling has its limitations. We can't always rely on how we feel when we imagine something because our sensory organs can't handle a collision of imagination and reality. We can't see or feel two things at once. We can't imagine a penguin when, in fact, we are witnessing an ostrich. In the same way, we can't feel good about an imaginary future when we are feeling bad about the present. Furthermore, the thrill can wane in the face of repetition as humans eventually adapt to experiences, making them less pleasant next time. This phenomenon is called habituation or declining marginal utility. Humans can, however, beat habituation in two ways. Time, widening the periods of repetition can slow down adaptation. Spaced experiences offer endless delight and, as such, are less likely to tire us out. Variety. To avoid habituation, it is crucial to spice up our experiences, or we might end up boring ourselves or others. While we try to figure out how to deal with habituation, it is essential to know that the present significantly influences our imagined tomorrow. We can despise Thomas Jefferson for enslaving people or Sigmund Freud for patronizing women, even though racism and sexism are moral standards that were non-existent at the time of their discrepancies. This phenomenon is called presentism. In simple terms, we rely on our present experiences to interpret past and future events. We forget that we change, as does our way of thinking, so we'll probably react differently. Fight your inner boggart. What happens when our body gets sick? The immune system starts actively fighting the virus. As it turns out, our mind also has an immune system that protects us from illness, such as negative thoughts. However, even the immune system can fall victim to weakness. If it is hypoactive, we are left prone to infections. Also, if it is hyperactive, it tends to defend the body against itself, leading to autoimmune disease. There has to be a balance. This condition equally applies to psychological well-being. It may be seductive to avoid negative feelings, not realizing we need them like physical bodies need good quality sleep. Facing loss, failure, or rejection is sometimes necessary to appreciate positive emotions, even if it sounds harsh. Human psychology is a defensive system that always finds a way to shift blame in the face of sad experiences. Large-scale assaults on our happiness trigger our psychological defenses. However, not every minor inconvenience is triggering. For example, little shocks do not provoke our psychological reasons, making it more challenging to have a favorable view of a bad experience than a very bad experience. In other words, we struggle with validating our feelings, not to appear to be overthinking or overreacting. It is natural to avert emotions caused by negative experiences, so we find ourselves searching for more soothing or satisfying ones. It explains why we return faulty gadgets, check out unsatisfactory hotels, and stop hanging out with people who make us uncomfortable. However, when we can't change an experience, our mind resorts to changing our attitude. We often find a positive view of things we're stuck with, like annoying uncles and lousy sisters. Our mind is trained to find these silver linings only when we must, when it's inescapably, inevitably, and irrevocably ours. Unavoidable occurrences set off our psychological guard, calling for a more positive view of the situation, and we can't help but oblige to stay sane. The collage of ghost memories. We must learn from our mistakes, which is why we make them. We try to avoid repeating experiences that have caused us embarrassment and regret. Ironically, we often don't remember these events accurately to take steps to prevent them in the future. Remember how our brain pulls the brakes whenever we experience something unpleasant and then substitutes the dark memories with lighter ones to make the pain more bearable? Next time we stumble upon similar circumstances, we're still likely to make the same mistake because we simply can't recollect the soreness from the past event. It explains why we usually remember only the significant details. The clip and save method is quite effective in protecting our mental stability. However, it has a few quirks. Saving some experiences and throwing away others may make us think the former happens more often than it actually does. We don't realize that sometimes, details of an event quickly come to mind because such an occurrence is uncommon, and we pay particular attention to it while it takes place. Because of this error, we sometimes plan incorrectly. And how accurate is our judgment if we view our future with present emotions distorted by clips of the past? Our memory is a museum of almost forgotten, twisted, and reframed recollections that gained permission to affect our decisions in the present, making some of them wrong at their very core. This way, we compromise our chances to grow from our mistakes. Did you know? Self-control is a limited resource you have to use wisely. However, you can develop it by keeping your goal in mind and practicing pre-feeling. Reliving the feeling after giving in to the habit is an excellent example. Turn your face to others. The future is difficult to see, but we're all heading there someday, and it's up to us to make decisions to aim for the experiences we want or get away from the ones we don't. To do this, we must take appropriate actions to lead us to the life we want. Another problem is that we believe we're special. There's nothing wrong with it except for a few things. First, we're physically incapable of walking in another person's shoes. It's unfair to think other people experience things like we do. Our past actions shape how we digest events from our lives, and we all have our unique templates for them. Let's face it, we love thinking we're special, and there's nothing wrong with that. Even research shows that people tend to distance and individualize themselves when they feel too similar to others. It's like finding another person who wore the same dress to the party as you. We're trying to say that it's okay to cherish your individuality as long as you understand that being unique doesn't mean correct. It is up to us to make the future we want for ourselves a reality. We are, however, bound to make mistakes while imagining our future, so how do we decide what to do? The experiences of others. Rather than rely on our far from perfect memory, it's safer to turn to past experiences of the people around us. Let's say we try to pursue a new hobby or travel to a new place. We don't have relevant experience to predict our future reactions, so we turn to other stories. Basically, we compare our expectations with their reviews. At the same time, it's important to remember about presentism. Just because you're excited about the first lesson doesn't mean you won't be discouraged by the second. Our knowledge isn't enough to maintain the balance of life. We're part of society, so let's use its fruits. Conclusion. Our imagination is flawed in that it often doesn't provide us with an accurate representation of our future emotions. It fills in and leaves out as it deems fit, projects the past onto the future, and fails to recognize that bad things won't feel so bad once they happen. It shows that imagination doesn't accurately predict our future emotional experiences. Our thoughts and feelings today lead to our thoughts and feelings in the future. Hence, observing how others feel today is the most reliable way to forecast our future emotions. People, however, do not often use this method as they should. We pay little or no attention to the present as a gauge for tomorrow. We should do better. Even though it doesn't suit our ego, we should always listen to people communicate their beliefs about happiness. This way, we can shape an accurate idea of satisfaction. We need to acknowledge that we have a lot to learn from the emotional experiences of others, and it makes sense to observe their level of happiness in different circumstances. Only this way can we accurately gauge our healthy future emotional well-being and, thus, create our happiness. Try this. Set intentions before doing something. What do you want to gain or learn by the end? This way, you can have your expectations clear and compare before and after. In the morning or before bed, take a couple of minutes to journal your thoughts. It's a good exercise to practice being present and see yourself from different perspectives. Treat your experiences like a scientist. Figure out why you felt or reacted the way you did, what lessons you can take from the situation, and what you need to improve. Thanks for being part of our insightful voyage. If our summary piqued your interest, we encourage you to dive into the complete book for a deeper understanding. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more content if you're new here, and share it with others who might find it valuable. Keep on reading, discovering, and advancing until our next adventure.